This is a video just overviewing the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics. So first of all, you have a population that you're typically trying to learn about with your research. So it's your population of interest. Maybe it is teenagers. So for example, there's a lot of media around social media causing depression in teenagers. It's not that researchers went and interviewed every teenager in the United States or the world. That would never happen. It's that they gathered information about a subset, a smaller group that will hopefully be representative of the people in that population of interest. And then they're making an inference about it. So I'm going to break this down. Population of interest, that's the group we're interested in. In this case, we're saying teenagers. Now, if we were to look at teenagers in the United States, that's too many people. We're never going to sample that many people, or we're never going to get data from that many people. Even if we said teenagers in Monterey Bay, we are not going to be able to get to every teenager in Monterey Bay. We might have people who we can't contact for whatever reason. Maybe they're homeschooled and or they're undocumented or they're homeless, whatever it might be. And so it's extremely unlikely that you would have the resources to contact everyone, and that you would actually be able to get that information. So what you're going to do instead is get a sample. And you want to find a sample that, again, reflects the people that are in that population. So if your population is primarily Hispanic, you don't want to have all Black or African American participants because that is not representative of who's in the population. There's different ways to go about that sampling process, but that sample, again, should represent the population. Next, what we do is or the researcher will do, is collect data on that sample, and then they'll describe what they actually found. So you're not making any inferences at this point. You're just saying this is what is. And a lot of times people stop here. So maybe your goal is to just describe what's happening in your sample. But typically you want to describe what's happening in the sample and then do something with that information. So when I say describe, I'm talking about using statistics. You're summarizing and trying to put together this picture or this story of the data. I would never just post a data set with, for example, information on favorite platforms of teenagers, right? Social media platforms. I would instead maybe create a graph, or I would talk about which is the most popular platform. I could also collect how many hours they spend on social media per day. I could collect all sorts of information. And then I would try and summarize it and make it digestible, easy to understand. Uh, Typical descriptive statistics are mean, median, mode, which are central tendency measures, range, variance, standard deviation, um, interquartile range. And so those are measures of variation or spread. You can also visualize to describe your data. So you could use histograms, bar charts, things like that. Those are your sample statistics. So S and S, sample statistic. Then what you do a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time is that you want to use a sample to draw a conclusion about a larger population. So to do that, there's a lot of different types of inferential statistics. Like you can use hypothesis testing, confidence intervals, but um, the general idea is that we're using probability to estimate the likelihood of getting our sample results. And so what we can do is if we say, hey, it's really unlikely that I would just get these results by chance, we can say, hey, we think this is real. We think this is real in the population. And I'm not saying this is a perfect process. We'll talk more about inferential statistics, but it allows us to make some inferences about what we think is true for the population because we cannot gather data on an entire population unless it is a very small population, and that is very rare. So we describe our sample. It could be demographic information. We can describe in this case, if we're looking at social media and depression, we could look at their social media and depression. Um, But we are, again, making an inference about a population, and that's called a population parameter. So P and P, population parameter. Descriptive statistics are noted with different symbols like an X bar is mean or a capital M is mean, whereas population parameters are Greek letters like mu for mean. So that's the difference between our descriptive statistics and our inferential statistics. And then we will work on specific types of each statistic.